Fixing the issues in the state correctional system, that remains the goal months after an unauthorized corrections officer strike ended. We'll hear from the Department of Corrections on what they'd like to see change. Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray. State and law enforcement agencies looking back on the recent corrections strike that saw 10,000 correction officers participate in illegal activity. The officers striking over working conditions in the state's prisons. The State Office of Employee Relations releasing a report on the strike in May, largely summarizing the order of events in that strike, which started February 17th and lasted until March the 10th. It also outlines the efforts the state made to respond to the strike, and it outlines the final agreement that ended the strike, which saw some 2,000 employees get fired. Corrections officers, PBA, and NYSCOPA releasing their own report in August, rebutting the state report. In their report, they claimed neglect from state oversight was to blame for the conditions that led to the strike. In addition to the issues with the HALT Act, NYSCOPA says that low staffing levels and high violence contributed to the frustration among the COs.
If we're going to make HALT work, you have to sit down with us and talk to the men and women that are working in these facilities, talk to their leaders, talk to us about how we can do this effectively and keep staff and incarcerated safe.
He went on to say that NYSCOPA still wants legislative relief and a stronger collective bargaining agreement. Now, keeping with reactions surrounding the strike, Congresswoman Lee Stefanik calling for an investigation into some of the corrections terminations. The North Country Congresswoman, who is eyeing a run for governor, saying the governor violated the law, suggesting that the governor told DOCCS to consider corrections officers who were on family and medical leave during the strike as AWOL, which is what got them fired. Now, we got a chance to follow up with the commissioner of the State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision on this very issue and other things as well facing the corrections system. Here's Jamie DeLine with some of that conversation.
Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about 2025. It seems like it's been a bit of a difficult year for DOCCS. Can you talk about that and how are things going now?
Yeah, we've certainly had our crises. Obviously, we've, over the course of the last 9 months, we've had 2 incarcerated people murdered at the hands of staff. So we're dealing with that and really doing culture assessments and making sure that we're putting things in place to move past that and safeguard the system. But as you know, we had a 22-day illegal job action or strike, which ended on March 10th, but only as a result of firing almost 2,000 correction officers. So coming out of those things, we have a lot of initiatives in place. I would say coming out of the strike, really the focus is on staffing, safety, and wellness, right? I mean, those are 3 pillars that I really am working very hard on, working very closely on. And I think we're making some momentum in all 3 of those areas, as well as, really focusing on our Recover, Recruit, Rebuild initiative that I launched subsequent to the strike.
And how are staffing levels currently?
So staffing levels are, we still are in crisis in terms of need to recruit staff, but with the aggressive recruitment campaign that we've launched, coupled with the governor's support in changes through the executive budget or the enacted budget and lowering the age of correction officers, as well as lifting residency restrictions, some initiatives like sign-on bonuses, referral bonuses, and retention, we are seeing a 160% increase of individuals taking the exam. So I have just shy of 12,000 people that have completed the examination process and now have to go through pre-employment screening. So as compared to last year, actual hiring, we're up 62% this year as compared to last year of people accepting appointment to the academy. So another positive indicator that we're going in the right direction.
Do you think lowering the age of correction officers is helping?
We are getting candidates that are under 18. Right now, I have at least 9 people under the age of 21 in our Corrections Academy. They're doing very well. The legislature put guardrails around that, which I think was smart in terms of what type of post, additional training, and limiting them from certain duties. But hiring 18-year-olds was something county corrections can do for years. We were prohibited Other states do it. I've talked to people in my position in other states. They've had no problems with that. And we had to open up additional avenues to give the hardworking men and women that work in our institutions relief so we can attract the next generation.
And speaking of counties, how have county jails been handling all of this? You know, are they able to transfer people, you know, to state prisons, or is that still kind of like on a pause?
You know, we've fully restarted taking what we call state-ready incarcerated people, so people that have been sentenced and that they're ready to come to state prison. During the strike, we put a pause on that. We restarted. We were just shy of 3,000 people backlog. We've cut that in half, and we're making tremendous progress. I'm very grateful to the sheriffs, to New York City DOCCS for really their cooperation throughout this. I know that it certainly impacts them. We are following the law and reimbursing them under the statute when we go past the 10 days, but we are making tremendous progress. Credit to my staff in Class and Movement, as well as our reception centers, and again, couldn't be more grateful to the sheriffs around the state that have really been working well with us.
And I know contraband has always been a topic that comes up when you talk about state prisons or county jails. What are you guys doing to crack down on that?
Yeah, so we've taken a number of steps in curtailing and interdicting contraband. First, we went to a vendor package program. Contraband dropped from 902 seizures to less than 30 once we instituted that. We've began photocopying regular general correspondence. We've instituted body scanners, another initiative that the governor put in past budgets to allow us to use body scanners. There is a ability for a visitor to opt out. And if they do so, I've now put a policy in place that then they can only have a non-contact visit, which allows for us to make sure that we have good security protocols in place. This year, we're going to be expanding our Office of Special Investigations canine program, which they're trained canines that can sniff people for contraband. We have 27 now. We'll add 27 more this year, 7 more next year, so we'll have at least 1 canine for every prison. And then lastly, and this is kind of with all of that work, we drove the market to legal mail. So we recently went under contract with a vendor and have now fully deployed legal mail screeners at every institution. We were finding that people were soaking paper, sending them in under the guise of legal mail, and legal mail by protocol as well as policy has to be open in the front of incarcerated people, and it was very hard to detect. So now these screeners detect foreign substances, and on legal mail, there should be no foreign substances. So we've done emergency regulations around that, and that's been very, very well received. But again, it's something that we continue to combat. It's a national issue. I'm involved with an organization, Correctional Leaders Association. We recently started a drug interdiction committee, which I sit on. This isn't a New York problem, right? So it's something that we continue to work at.
I know a bill was recently introduced that would make mail electronic for those who are incarcerated. Do you think that's a good idea?
So I don't comment on publicly on legislation that's pending, but here's what I would tell you, setting aside the legislation. Tablets don't work that way, right? And particularly when you talk about legal mail, we can't screen legal mail. It has to be opened in the presence of the incarcerated individual. So you really have to understand operational impact and actually the day-to-day. The things that we're doing now are really working. So I think that we need to give the things that we put in place an opportunity to work. I'm getting positive feedback. I'll actually be visiting a prison in 2 weeks with the vendor to look at the system and see are there other contraband mitigation strategies that we can implement beyond what we're doing on legal mail, and I think there may be opportunities for that.
And I know the parole board put forth some regulations that they would like to see in place. Is there anything that you can comment on that when it comes to those who committed crimes when they were younger and, you know, taking a look at like their mental health and how they've grown?
Yeah, in terms of the parole board, you know, when they merged the Department of Corrections and the Division of Parole, they placed the parole board within the agency. but the chair has independent authority on all decision making as well as all regulatory changes. So that's really a function of the board. What I would say generally, and I think the research shows that as people age, they age out of criminality. Obviously, that's not true for everyone, but that's definitely something that the research has shown. So to the extent that the chair is making changes and the board are moving in the direction of really focusing on the age of the individual at the time of the crime and looking at what they've done since, totally supportive.
What else would you like New Yorkers to know when it comes to DOCCS and the state's prison system?
I think what I'd like New Yorkers to know is I'd like them to know that the men and women that work in our system, they go to work every day and they do tremendous, tremendous work. We certainly have things we can do better, as evidenced by those horrific incidents with the 2 murders, and we should hold those people accountable, and nobody's above the law. But the people that work in DOCCS, they're actually changing lives and helping people transform. And that's representative of our recidivism rate. 18.9% is our recidivism rate currently, and we have goals to lower it. The national average is around 37. So that's doing 2 things. It's showing that our staff are doing the right thing and impacting lives, but yet our incarcerated people are also doing the right things, getting involved in programs. And then ultimately what we do when that happens is we protect communities, we avoid victimization. But no doubt, it's a hard job, right? I mean, we have violence in prison that we are working hard to reduce, both violence, all the way around, and luckily this year our numbers are trending down, but it's hard work. And oftentimes it's characterized in the negative, and I'm all for showing and being transparent about what we're doing wrong, but we are doing a lot of things that are right, and the public needs to see that. Corrections plays an important role in the public safety continuum, and we're often forgotten about the important role that we do play.
And going back to the strikes that happened earlier this year, some are saying that there were officers out on FMLA that were terminated. What's your response to that?
Yeah, everyone that was terminated, we've done reviews to determine were they on FMLA, did they have medical documentation, was the termination appropriate? And again, we're not perfect. Under the collective bargaining agreement, we terminated them under a specific section. So those employees have due process rights if they file a grievance. So as they file a grievance, they have an opportunity to bring evidence forward that would show that maybe the termination wasn't appropriate, and or any other evidence for us to make a decision. If we find somebody like that, we're making them whole, we're bringing them back to work. So it's a big system, but the goal was never to terminate people that were on FMLA or anything like that, which is why we're doing these individualized reviews. And
what would you say to someone who's thinking of possibly becoming a corrections officer, but is maybe afraid because of the strikes and other things that they're hearing?
Listen, I think New York State Corrections is a good place to work, and we have a lot of great employees, a lot of camaraderie, and the mission of the agency is really life-changing, right? There's not occupations that you can come to work every day and have the opportunity to change someone's life, as well as to protect society. So we have jobs open, starting pay, starting the academy, is $66,500, right? You top out over $111,000. We're doing regional recruitment where you can work right in your communities. We've opened advanced placement, and the opportunities are endless. I mean, I started my career as a correction officer, and I'm sitting here with you as the commissioner of the agency. So, we have people that go into program services or health services, stay in security. The opportunities are endless. Every one of our prisons is like its own municipality where we have schools and we have security staff, right? We have health services, we have maintenance. The opportunities in the agency are endless and the career is rewarding. So we're open for business. We're looking to fill vacancies. We're focusing on employee wellness, and come check us out. There's a lot of opportunities, and we look forward to growing the next generation of correctional professionals.
And looking ahead to 2026, what would you like to see changed, or what are your goals for DOCCS?
Yeah, my goals for DOCCS, remain really based on those 3 pillars. I want to make sure that we continue to recruit and retain a competent workforce so that my staff have a work-life balance, because that's critical to me, right? I want to make sure that we're delivering services to the population and that we're proud of, that I'm proud of. You know, the fact that we offer college programming at 38 out of 42 prisons, that's something I'm proud of, and I want to see it everywhere, because at the end of the day, we're achieving our mission and we're returning people back to their families, to their communities as better versions of themselves, and really putting a face on incarceration rather than being defined by their worst moment, right? And then also really focusing on safety in prisons, safety for everyone, right? When we look at safety, safety isn't a staff thing, it's not an incarcerated thing, it's an everyone thing, right? It's really about holistic safety, which I have a initiative with Chicago Beyond, really focusing on recognizing that we're all people and that my safety is important, your safety is important, and therefore it's our safety, right? And we have to get back to that people-centered approach. And that's been my message from the beginning. And then I think lastly is to continue to be transparent and accountable, right? Nobody's above the law, regardless of who the perpetrator is, whether it's staff, whether it's incarcerated, whether it's a visitor. Call balls and strikes.
All right, we'll have to leave it right there. Commissioner, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, can be a useful tool. Tools like ChatGPT can write essays or create images. But how are these AI tools being used in the classroom? When we come back, we'll hear from an AI expert on how the technology is impacting those heading back to school. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. As students around the state head back to school for the fall, we are monitoring how artificial intelligence, AI, is set to impact the classroom. Here's how some schools are handling it here in the Capital Region. In the Albany City School District, the district allowing everyone to use AI, but only to help generate some ideas and content. The district has purchased a few AI tools and is now using them in small group lessons for activities. The superintendent says AI is not meant to replace the work that both the teachers and the students still have to do. In the nearby Cambridge Central School District in upstate New York, teachers are instructing students on how to use AI responsibly. This year, the students are taking a digital literacy course, which also focuses on online safety. The school also using a program to check for plagiarism and if AI was used in any of their student projects. Joining us now to give additional insight on artificial intelligence in our classrooms, Levi Newland, an AI expert and a senior vice president of digital marketing at the Martin Group. Levi, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's give you guys a plug first. Martin Group, where are you located and what is it you guys do?
We're headquartered in Buffalo, New York, with offices all across New York State, including Rochester, Albany, and a presence in New York City. And we do kind of all-in digital marketing, advertising, kind of full service, whatever you need for that, we support it.
And AI has really become the shiny new toy, and it's really beyond that, isn't it? It's the future, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really been disrupting a lot of different ways to how we work and how we approach our work. So it's always top of mind of kind of seeing what it can do to not only help us, but also where it might change things in ways we're not expecting.
Let's talk about AI in the classroom now. I'm in my 60s, so when I was a kid, we had certain calculators, and you could use them for certain math problems, but most times teachers say, I don't want to see that calculator on your desk. You got to be able to do it yourself, some of the math work. I feel like 40 years later, 50 years later, we're now seeing this with AI where, they're having to control kids having phones in the classroom and having those phones out and putting the phones away. It really is, it can be a tool, but it works both ways, doesn't it?
It definitely does, and I think it's a good kind of a thing to compare it to is like the old scientific calculators, and that AI provides near infinite possibility to dive into the world's information, provide guidance on how to do work, or it can technically do some of the work for you. So with things kind of being that all-encompassing, it's much more challenging from a classroom standpoint to think of where it has benefits and where it might actually hinder some aspects of education.
I'd imagine, too, like if you're a teacher, it's not like an all or nothing, not like AI is good or AI is bad. It's probably how you use it, right? I mean, even as a teacher, it must be able to help them a little bit in the classroom.
Exactly. I think from thinking of the functional side of being a teacher and from an administrative side, being able to brainstorm new ideas for potential lesson plans, projects, or types of reports, helping to create outlines and support that overall kind of day-to-day makes a lot of sense. And from a student standpoint, it can provide a lot of benefits, assuming that there's proper boundaries and guidelines of how teachers expect the students to be using the tools.
Well, for those who maybe like me, I'm late on this train, who don't understand the power of AI. At first I thought, well, it's just a new version of kind of Google. You just put information, it gives you. It's really different than that, isn't it? It's giving you more than just a Google search would give you.
Yeah, it goes a lot deeper than that. It goes beyond giving you just direct answers based on broad inquiries and really seeks to understand what you're asking, help fill in the gaps, ask you to clarify, and then we'll give you as much information as possible to kind of get you to that endpoint. So on Google, you can't necessarily search and just say, write a paper for me, but these AI tools like ChatGPT can do that for you. You could give it a basic inquiry and say, write this for me, and it will take it to that endpoint. It's not saying it's going to be accurate or correct or of quality, but it will attempt to do that to kind of please the end user.
Is it going to be possible for teachers to spot like an AI paper versus a paper the kid actually wrote? I'd imagine some kids would think they'd be clever, like I'll have it write the paper and I'll go in there and change a couple things around and they'll never catch me, but there's got to be a way.
Yeah, there's tools out there that claim that they can detect whether somebody used AI, but honestly, most of them are not reliable. From a classroom standpoint, it's still very important that the teachers understand their students, their capabilities, their approach to their work, and assess it like they would anything else that they might be doing in the past that might not have been using these tools to understand, is a student capable of this? Does it seem above and beyond what their capabilities are? In the same way they'd probably be thinking in the past, like, oh, did somebody write this homework for them or did they do it themselves?
Looking at some of your notes you were sending me on ways to work with AI for teachers, one thing caught my eye is maybe have them do things in the classroom in front of you, and then you can kind of match it up. If you get a body of work, you can say, well, wait a second here. I've looked at papers you've written when I gave you a half hour. Then I looked at your paper you gave me when you had the weekend, and one looks like Shakespeare, and the other one looks like, South Park, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the in-person aspect is super important to kind of making sure that AI is being used, if it is allowed in the classroom, correctly, making sure that you're having conversations with students, doing Q&As, having them present what they've learned so that that they not only maybe have leveraged AI to help them guide them through the process, but they've actually internalized what you had expected to. A lot of AI tools actually now have study modes that can, instead of just giving you direct answers, actually help coach you through the beginning, the middle, and the end, instead of just saying, well, here's what you need to do to kind of, get a good grade.
We only got about a minute left, but I would also think whether it's students or even somebody like you in marketing as a grown-up and adult, you have to be careful not to rely too much on AI, I would think, because you could spit in here, give me a 30-second ad for a guy who wants to sell coffee. It's going to spit something out quick. It doesn't necessarily mean it's really good copy to put out there in the world. Creativity and what humans can do is also special, I would think.
Yes, it's extremely important. And considering all of these AI tools are based on existing information out there, it doesn't mean that the ideas or things that it's bringing up are going to be unique. It's going to be based on some sort of a combination of all of the possibilities that it can see and assumes might work. But really, the human element is what helps not only what we do in the marketing and advertising world get to that next level, but also making sure, that students are putting their work in a way that's unique and helps them for when they're no longer in school and are expecting to actually do the work themselves. And there may be a higher level of scrutiny of what that output is.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Leela, Neil, fascinating stuff, and I got a feeling we'll have to have you back on again in the future because this world is changing faster than we can count. Thank you so much for coming on today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Speculation swirling in the race for New York City mayor. The latest on the suspected deal between President Trump and the incumbent mayor Eric Adams. Plus, one candidate accusing another of, quote, a temper tantrum. We'll have the breakdown on that. If you got a comment or story idea, tell us about it. You can email us at news@news10.com. We're also on X at WTEN. Welcome back. Checking in now in the race for mayor, Eric Adams insisting this week that he is still in this for re-election, despite the persistent rumors that he may soon be offered a job in the Trump administration in exchange for dropping out of the race to make it easier to defeat Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani. Reporter Henry Rossoff with Pix 11 has details.
I've never asked for a job with HUD. I've never been promised a job with HUD. I have not communicated with the president.
At a public safety event Thursday, Mayor Eric Adams maintains he is still running for re-election as an independent. It comes despite reports in the New York Times and Politico, among others, that while he was down in Florida earlier this week, he made contact with those close to the president and may have been promised a job in exchange for dropping out of the race. It's a move that would inevitably help former Governor Andrew Cuomo consolidate moderate support in an attempt to defeat Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani.
Looking to all of those horrific things that are happening and choosing to work with that administration with the intent of subverting the will of Democratic primary voters here in New York City, it's an affront to our democracy.
Cuomo says he has not spoken with President Trump or Mayor Adams and says Mamdani is having a, quote, temper tantrum because he knows the only way he wins is if the contest for mayor remains divided among several candidates.
The opposition to Mamdani is a majority, and it is only going to get worse. The more New Yorkers find out about this guy, the less they will support him.
Reports have also suggested Republican and independent candidate Curtis Sliwa might be convinced to drop out by the president. Sliwa blames Cuomo for those rumors and has repeatedly said he's not spoken to the Trump administration.
So for the 9,852nd time, I am not dropping out.
Cuomo also challenging Mamdani to 5 debates one-on-one across the 5 boroughs, but Mamdani has said he will only do the 2 official campaign finance board debates scheduled for October. Cuomo, for the record, had expressed an openness to doing more debates, not even with Mamdani, but just with Adams and Sliwa, to perhaps determine the leading contender to take on Mamdani, but has since backed off of that idea. From City Hall in New York City, I'm Henry Rossoff reporting for Empire State Weekly. Stick around. Back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit. And if you got a comment or story idea, please tell us about it. Email us at news@news10.com. We are also on X at WTEN.